Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl Ames.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Mike Lipari.
And this is Dr. Christopher Endrinal.
So we have us a fight today, fellas. Hashtag album fight. And we're going to have our contenders step into the ring here in a moment. My official co-host and judge is lifelong friend, someone I love dearly, and I even like his wife a bunch too, and his kids, is Mike Lipari. He's been a judge on the past. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining me today.
I am happy to be here. Here we have, in the blue corner, Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. This album is number 51 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time. Was the best-selling album of all time from its release year in 1970 until just a few years later, 1972-73, before it got pushed down. It is going up against, in the red corner, 1987's Joshua Tree by U2, which matches Bridge Over Troubled Water at a whopping 25 million copies sold. It's U2's best-selling album of all time in their 40-plus year history of releasing albums. Joshua Tree ranked number 27 on Rolling Stone's top 500. So we have one heck of a matchup today.
And then our guest judge today has a pedigree, a license, if you will. Actually, a license because you must. He is Dr. Chris Endrinal. He actually wrote his PhD on the form and style of U2, and so he is certainly qualified to, one, assess music, and two, talk in great detail about U2. But he's joining us today from Florida, and we appreciate him. He has his own episode of the Break It Down show that was on just a little while ago, so you can look for that. Chris, thank you so much for joining us ringside today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. What a fight.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy, and I want to get into it. Richard, give us your pre-fight analysis. What are your thoughts on U2 versus Simon and Garfunkel?
This week features two Grammy Album of the Year winners. So to say this is a big fight is a bit of an understatement. So let's look at who's in the ring. Up first is the 1987 U2 album, The Joshua Tree, an album that is an atmospheric study on the band's fascination with what they described as the mythical America. This marks the band's fifth studio album, and the album that turned U2 into a household name. It includes 3 mega hits on MTV and the radio, and marks, in my opinion, the band at its peak. And personally, it stands as an album I would describe as perfect. But don't be fooled, because it's not up against some cheesecake album. It's up against 6-time Grammy-winning Bridge Over Troubled Water from Simon and Garfunkel. Now, this album is also their 5th studio album, but it also marked their last. This album is covered in classics, so we've given the judges an impossible task this week. Which one's better? Ha! Good luck. Both of these albums I'd put in the category of the 1%ers, where they will beat 99% of the albums that they go up against. These are monster classics that stand the test of time, and as writing this, I'm not even sure who wins it. So luckily, I have my super scientific patent-pending system to analyze the numbers and see what will happen. Now, the popularity numbers were a little all over the place at first glance. Spotify had Bridge winning every round, but just barely winning, no blowouts. It wasn't until I looked at the iTunes number that it started to kind of clear up a bit. And with that on popularity, Bridge comes out 6 rounds to 5. Very close. Now, looking at critical numbers, Joshua Tree has an average out of 5-star rating, 4.8125. Very impressive. To Bridge's 4.3375, which seems to put a little bit of distance between the two. And essentially the album split the other 4 categories that I used with 2 apiece. All of which tells me, like I'd initially thought, that these albums are very closely matched. So then the numbers come down to interpretation. And I think also throwing in a very biased Pete Turner factor into this, I'm not sure Bridge walks out with a win. The early numbers say Simon and Garfunkel, the late numbers say U2, but both by the narrowest of margins. Important rounds for U2 are the first 3 rounds. Where Simon and Garfunkel could dominate is rounds 6, 7, and 8. I say U2 ends up pulling it out. Just barely. I think U2 takes it 6 rounds to 5. Back to you guys.
Okay, well, listen, what Richard doesn't know, apparently, is that Chris has a PhD in U2, and Mike and I both heard this album for the first time, shared the same airwaves, the same space. There was a teacher from our high school, Benicia High, shout out to the Panthers.
Go Panthers.
And he went during his prep period, bought the tape, brought it back during lunch, and at least Michael Talbot, Michael Lipari, and Pete Turner with that teacher were in the same room. I do not remember the teacher's name. Mike, do you?
Was it Mr. Gibbs?
Was it, or do you think it was?
I am relatively sure it was.
Okay. We'll have to ask Mr. Gibson the next time I go to his party on Cinco de Mayo. This is a lot of fun. Any pre-fight comments, fellas?
Ooh. Well, when I heard it would be a fight involving the Joshua Tree, my first instinct was, well, good luck, other album, because as Richard said, this is one of the 1%ers, right? It would beat 99% of other ones. But then the other album is Bridge Over Troubled Water, so this is a heavyweight battle, and I think some of the scores don't necessarily reflect just how close the overall quality of each of these albums really is.
Mike, pre-fight thoughts?
I had fallen in love with U2 before Joshua Tree came out and had most of their back catalog by the time this did come out. To me, this was just me sharing my favorite band with the rest of the world as they became that big. And I was happy to share them because they brought so much joy to me. But Bridge Over Troubled Water is an album from my childhood. I am a kid born at the end of the 60s, grew up in the 70s. My parents loved Simon and Garfunkel. I heard this album probably a gazillion times. Is that a real number? Gazillion?
Yes.
To me, I told my mom I was doing this album fight, and she's like, "Oh my God, who's going to win?" It's going to be tough for me. The love of my childhood versus the love of my teen years from a musical perspective.
And I suppose we should throw the disclaimer out right away. These albums are in the ring because we love them. And yes, we're going to say some critical things, but let's be clear. I have bought Joshua Tree on any number of media, any number of times. So I love these guys. I've absolutely owned Bridge Over Troubled Water. I've tried to learn how to play some of the songs on my guitar. We are talking about these albums from a place of love. But sometimes family gets together and they can be critical and honest of one another. And this is a kooky format that they never ever considered, and that's what makes for great collisions in the fight ring. So with that said, round 1. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Well, Where the Streets Have No Name. Just what an opening, right? It starts out with the organ. It sounds like you're stepping into a church. And then it swells into, the Edge and Adam and Larry, and it changes meter. It's musically interesting, and it swells to this enormous space-filling sonic landscape from silence. It forces you to lean in closer, and then just when you think so, it blows your hair back. What an opening! I score the round. It is close because Bridge Over Troubled Water. Big swell there too. Classic song. Close victory for U2, 10-9.
Mike, how did you have round 1?
So I'm reading my notes. I am going to read my notes verbatim for this song. Fuck this round. Fuck it badly. I hate giving out a tie. And that was where my first thought was is this sucks. I need to listen to these songs again and come up with a winner. And both of these songs are great. Both songs have a slow build. Both songs have amazing vocal performances. And then I kind of focused in on Bridge first. It's really Art Garfunkel's magnum opus. Simon is nowhere to be heard until about 3:14 in. But the addition of that harmony just takes the song to another level as it's building to its crescendo. And the song is just genius. And if you don't get a little emotional listening to this song, you're dead inside. Then Streets. It kind of starts out with Awe, that just slow build of the organ. Then Edge comes in with that jangly guitar that no one had heard before. But the thing about this song is no single instrument, including Bono's voice, drowns out any other instrument. They build together in a wide-eyed optimism to a place nobody can name. Is it heaven? Is it Las Vegas? Who knows? But where the streets have no name sounds like an amazing place that I want to go to someday. I hate this round. I could not give out a tie. I refused to. So I listened to both songs 3 times before I could come up with U2 coming out 10-9 in a very, very close victory.
I will say that on the scorecard, and we won't get too far ahead of ourselves in that, but Phil, one of our CompuBox, we do an aggregate scoring thing. He actually couldn't bear to do it. He actually had to do a tie. and I think that is accurate because my round 1 assessment goes like this. How the hell do you separate these 2 songs? Each song is covered by over a dozen different acts. That's such a compliment. Each song has won multiple Grammys or been part of a Grammy effort. U2 has played the song Streets Have No Names 900 times live. The only songs above it are songs that are older in their catalog, and I think there's 3 songs they have played more for crowds, and they're all from earlier albums. That number's got to be the same for Simon and Garfunkel. These guys have been on the road forever playing this song, whether individually or together. So each song is perfection. That opening organ and guitar for the Streets, we've all talked about it. The piano and Art's beautiful voice, and then they slowly bring in the other instruments. I just don't know. They're both masterworks. Both are widely recognized as masterpieces. You don't have to like either act to understand that these songs are special. I'm inclined to pick Bridge because I'm biased towards U2 and I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to affect things. But Johnny Cash damn near won a Grammy himself with Bridge Over Troubled Water. So I'm like, well, shoot, maybe there's something else there. So I'm going to dig really deep, and the size of Streets is undeniable. Bridge Over Troubled Water is 164 words in the lyrics. Streets is 170. And then Bridge Over Troubled Water, it's a shoulder to lean on. I'm trying to look for something. And that whole Silver Girl bit is just wonderful. Sail on Silver Girl. I don't know why, but that particular lyric. But it's about chasing dreams. And it's the lover in Bridge is letting someone go. Maybe because they didn't win, maybe because they don't feel like they should win, or because they just can't hold the Silver Girl, whereas Streets is going there together, and I like being in love and chasing a dream together. Since both of these songs are about chasing a dream, but U2 is doing it together. That's my narrow margin, by the way. Just I like to see them hand in hand going out there. So on that concept alone, because there really is no difference, I'm calling this one 10-9 for U2. Round 2. I still haven't found what I'm looking for versus El Condor Pasa. So, Michael, take this one away for us.
I have a bit of a bias against I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I have always wondered why. This is a good opportunity for me to try and figure out exactly why. I think it was, while I said earlier I was ready to share my band with the rest of the world, this was what catapulted them into superstardom, this song. And it got played and played and played and played so much that I just found myself getting tired of hearing it. And this is back in 1987. I listen to it now and I see why everyone loved it. And it warms my heart. It's a song about faith, and not specific faith, but overall faith. And I think that's something that people really need. El Condor Pasa is, I always liked it as a kid. It's a ditty. It's musically solid. It's in an upbeat mood. The lyrics are very esoteric, but you know what? I really would rather be a hammer than a nail. I think my bias from years ago kind of came into play here just a little bit. I did give this round to Simon and Garfunkel in a very close 10-9. I've learned to appreciate, still haven't found what I'm looking for, but I think I heard it so much the year it came out, and I wanted to give this one to Simon and Garfunkel for a very well put together, very well thought through song with some really cool kind of esoteric lyrics.
I had round two going like this. Look, right away you hear Eno and Lanois, and this is what makes U2 a special place. Their producers really helped them craft these songs, and you couldn't get there without those two. The edge is present. This song is all about togetherness again, and this song. This song is so good, and it's one of their greatest hits, and it's something they can always play. It's these first two songs on both albums are mighty, mighty 1-2 punches. And Simon and Garfunkel absolutely exchanging blows. Their song, like what? Again, what am I supposed to do? It's just incredible songcraft, and while this song is old and emblematic of its time, it's not dated. It's just a beautiful song, well crafted. It's empowering. It's lovely. There's a beautiful lyric, and that is something that is rarely achieved with something as original as this. And Paul Simon is credited as an original songwriter, so though this is technically a cover, he did such a good job and a unique job that he's credited as a songwriter. So there you go. In terms of trying to separate these two songs, though, this is a cover. So I went back to the old versions of the song, and El Condor Pasa is, Mike says it better than I do because his wife is a native Spanish speaker. But
would you like me to say it for you again?
Please.
El Condor Pasa. El Condor Pasa.
So
there you go.
In El Condor Pasa, the tune is the same tune it's been for 100 years. And though you have a unique set of lyrics because they're in English, you're going against one of U2's best songs ever. And so because of that, I have to give this round to U2 10-9. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, this was closer than I thought it would be too. Just on the surface, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. U2's first number one. But interesting thing, both of these tracks to me, they both sound like the desert. It just sounds like different parts of the desert to me. In the Simon and Garfunkel, I can hear bits of Sound of Silence in that bridge, and what an amazing song about humanity and about feeling human. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I mean, again, the sonic space that it creates, the bass pulsing, it feels like your heart that you hear pounding in your ears after you've crossed a long desert, and Bono's vocals, I mean, can't get much more passionate than that. And it's a personal song, yet it's somehow universal. This one goes 10-9 to U2.
Yeah, it's a super tough round, and I agree. The both these songs sound like the desert. I love that you said that. I wish I would have said that.
Well, that's why he's the PhD and we're not.
Right. Round 3, Cecelia, and they're taking on With or Without You. And by God, good grief, come on. So look, Cecilia's catchy. I love the percussion in the song, all the different ways they approach things. They even mess with time a little bit. There's some flaming clapping in there and that kind of thing. It's a hit. It's not just a hit, it's a lifetime hit. And it's just as sticky as can be. When we do these things, Chris, I often find myself with certain songs, I just got to shake them off my hand because they're there all the time, stuck there, And look, these two albums have started out just toe-to-toe with swinging and trying to establish who's dominant. And right here, we're trying to determine what is the difference. Paul Simon can write a song as good as anybody who has ever lived. That's above Hall of Fame class. It's truly inspirational what he's done. And then again, what am I supposed to do here with or without you? There's nothing wrong with the song. It's U2 doing what they do sonically, and they're at their near peak. Bono's lyric is a realization of his life between his two realities. It's inevitable. He can't be just at home with Allie, his love, and he can't just be on the road with his family that's out and singing and doing what he's born to do. So he's torn. He's in the lurch. I'm in the lurch. I'm trying to figure this out. What a great premise for a song. And when you can take love and find new angles of explaining it to humanity, that means a lot, especially to me, because I'm really big on the words, and if the words are great, then I'm going to recognize it. Look, here's the thing. Cecelia is Simon and Garfunkel's peak. There's really no better song for them. They have other songs that are equally as good, but this is the very tippity top of the Simon and Garfunkel mountain. And that is not true of U2. With or Without You is a wonderful song. It is a solid A instead of an A+. But I'm gonna take the peak of Simon and Garfunkel and give them the round 10-9.
I had this round again so close, and on any other day, each song would probably crush any other song against it. Like you said, Cecilia. I mean, I will read my notes verbatim. I dare anyone not to get up and dance while listening to this song.
Right.
This is an earworm at its finest. This is also a great song to introduce people how to sing harmony, right? So it's a song about coming together. You know, it just the act of singing this song puts you in a good mood. So on any other day, this would win the round. Except it's up against With or Without You. It is arguably U2's signature song with that infinite guitar, and nothing on the radio in 1987 sounded like this. Nothing on the radio, and I don't think anything has since, with that infinite guitar and that slow crescendo to that explosion of vocals. It's one of the best moments in pop music history, bar none. This one was really close though, but 10-9, U2.
Mike, how did you have this round?
I'm going to steal a little bit from Chris here, I think, just because he went first. So Cecelia is a great Simon and Garfunkel song. I think it was Pete's point that, you know, they play it all the time. It's just a catalog staple. It's upbeat, fun, toe tapping. I had fun twice in my notes. So, and yeah, it's a great song to learn to sing to. You know, I can remember singing along to this when I was a little kid learning how to sing. I'm always happy when the song comes up on the radio or whatever musical device I happen to be using, because it's always there on my playlists. It's hard to beat, but damn if U2 doesn't just bring it in spades. So With or Without You, it's a complete song beginning to end. You know, you listen to this song, you can tell that they put a lot of work, a lot of thought into it. And this is Bono growing up as a vocalist. The pain and anguish he puts into his vocals is not easy to do at all. Anybody who's ever tried to sing will know what I'm talking about. The band works together, and I say this a lot throughout my analysis, to set the mood in each song. And this is setting a mood of longing, of true love. If you've ever been in love, you can relate to some of the lyrics. I can't live with or without you, nothing to win and nothing left to lose. When you've given up your heart to someone else, they're still a human being, and you still have to deal with them every day. And sometimes you just can't stand them, even though you love them with all your heart. Also, it's the first single from the album, and it's really setting the table for U2 to conquer the world. And while I love Cecelia, it's another really close round, but I went with U2 10-9.
Mike, when we listened to this album the first time, one of the things I learned pretty early on with U2 is that it was going to take me a minute to get it. It was going to take me a minute to we say now unpack, and I hate to use cliche terms, but that's really what happens. You have to, and I think you agree with this too, because I think I've heard you say similar things. There's just so much in these songs. It's like your ear and your brain are like, I don't know. But I learned a long time ago to put faith in U2 as they got there. This song, With or Without You, for me, jumped out as being special for me early on. And maybe the song that I thought should have been a hit first. Which is a funny thing to think about a band like, oh, this number one, shoot, that should, it should have been With or Without You went first, but that's how many hits there are on this thing. What do you recall, Mike, from that room, that first screening of the album?
I remember, well, first of all, I remember Streets, and I know we're going back a couple rounds, but I remember hearing the intro to Streets, and I said, this is U2? And then about 20, 30 seconds in, I'm like, this is going to be huge. Everyone will have heard of this band by the end of the year. Just, they did so much musically that, I mean, if you're a fan of the band, you listen to Boy, you listen to October, you listen to War, you listen to Unforgettable Fire. There's a progression there. And a lot of bands don't get the opportunity. If you don't have a hit by your second album, you often don't get a third. They had the chance to grow. But when I heard With or Without You, that was like, you're a teenager. I'm 17. I hear this song. I'm like, wow, that must be what it feels like to be in love. I don't know that yet.
What did you think, Chris?
I was still pretty young when I first heard this song, but I knew that I liked it immediately because it didn't sound like anything else on the radio then. Right. And it's still unique, and it might have also suffered from overplay, but that's what happens to the great songs. And this one is a great song. It's a great song lyrically. It's a great song sonically. It's a great song musically. You know, it ticks all the boxes, and it has gotten recognition as being as such. But then again, you know, Cecilia is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, right. All right, so let's keep it moving. Let's go. Chris, why don't you give me your round 4?
Round 4 score is 10-9, U2. Bullet the Blue Sky, for anyone who doesn't think the Edge can shred, well, this is the song that I always point to. And I say, listen to this. And all of those sounds you hear are him playing the guitar in ways that you can't even think of yet. It's there. And, you know, his sound perfectly captures the lyrics. And the lyrics perfectly capture what the Edge is putting out. Like, those two parts work in such harmony, you know, and I love Keep the Customer Satisfied. I love the instrumentation. I love what they do with the stereo fields. I love when the brass and saxes come in. You know, that honky tonk feel. I love it. But Bullet is it's a statement song. And
this episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
They make a statement the only way that they know how, and it's loud and it's in your face. This one went to you too.
Mike, how did you do it?
I'll start with Bullet the Blue Sky. Those drums, I mean, kudos to the guitar, I'll get to that. But the rhythm section of U2 shows up loud and proud in this song. The drums, those drums, you hear the first downbeat, and you know what song it is. That is, if you've heard it before. But hearing it for the first time, it was just, you know, after that wonderful ballad is boom, 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 amazing. And I'm like, ooh, what are they doing? You get that crunchy guitar intro, the pounding bass, and then that slide guitar right into Bono, and he just growls the first lyric at you. It's overtly political, but that's not new territory for this band. And again, with being a student of U2 before this came out, you grew up on Sunday Bloody Sunday, you know this band is capable of making a statement. And this song makes a statement both in the lyrics and just in the music. Simon and Garfunkel needs to bring it hard, and they just don't. Keep the Customer Satisfied is a great folk rock. Any other band would be proud to have it. And it belongs there on one of the best-selling albums of all time. The harmonies are tight. The backing music is super tight as well. This song is well produced. You know, you listen to it and you can't find any flaws in the production. It just gets shredded by a much better song. To me, this was close to Simon and Garfunkel Taking a Knee, but I think they brought just enough to stay on their feet. 10-9 U2.
When I heard Bullet Blue Sky for the first time, standing next to Mike, I think Scott Morrison might have been there with us. We had all kind of been on U2 early. I remember hearing this song and saying, this is my favorite song on the album. It instantly connected with me, and I liked it. Like you said, that look, Larry Mullen can't play the drums right, but he can play riffs that stick with people, and this is one of them. He can pick a guitar piece or a drum piece together and make you go, oh, that's Larry Mullen. And this is one of those. And I totally agree with you here, Chris. People say that the Edge can't shred. He chooses not to. And when Bono comes up to Edge and says, put El Salvador through the amplifier.
Yeah.
Fuck you if you don't think that he can't play the guitar. That is exactly what he does here. And it is a monster. It's terrifying. You know, look, one of the things that we've learned from the album fight is we get ear fatigue. Well, that's not going to happen here. We've changed pace. We've gone from With or Without You to a whole new canvas. We're talking about Central American problems, U.S. foreign policy, and this is why they became the only band that matters, because they can go right from love, right from struggle, togetherness into this. Adam's bass line, when the rhythm section from U2 can contribute on par with what Bono and Edge does, it's going to make a song that is incredibly special. Adam's bass line is fantastic. It's terrifying. instantly identifiable. You can hear a lot of war type. Larry goes to the military drum thing, and it's really cool to hear that because it harkens back to what they were a couple albums before. And then Bono's lyric. This is again, he can sing, but see the face of fear running scared in the valley below. You have to pay attention to that. Here comes the rattle and hum. He's peeling off those dollar bills. And this is just these concepts, these images brought to you on the radio. If you're too young to understand foreign policy, if you just don't care, well, here it is right in your face in a way that can be consumed. This isn't a whiny folk song. This is powerful rock and roll. And delivering all of that. Look, I'm going to call Richard out and say, you can say that U2's music doesn't match up with Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and everything else, but those bands can't do this. They can't make people stop what they're doing and go look at a problem and start to change the world. That matters. It's their music doing it. So I'm a big fan of this song. It's fantastic. And like you said, Mike, keep the customer satisfied. It's cute. And it's folksy, and it's catchy, and everything about it is Paul Simon, and it's great. But this is a band showing up that's maybe the best band of all time, and Paul Simon is not in that conversation. As great a Hall of Fame act as he is, this for me is 10-8.
Ooh.
All right, round 5. I haven't taken a knee. Mike, lead us off.
So this is So Long Frank Lloyd Wright versus Running to Stand Still. I think So Long Frank Lloyd Wright would make a great lullaby, and I'm going to remember this song for when I have grandchildren, because I think it'll be a good song to help them go to sleep. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because it is, again, a well-produced song. But you can see the message behind this is that these guys are on their last leg. They're going to break up soon. This was their last album together, and they're splintering a little bit, and this song kind of points to it. Again, not a bad song. I want to make sure that's clear, but just not their best. And then you go up against something like Running to Stand Still, which is a storytelling song where once again the band is working together to tell the story of addiction and hopelessness in the Dublin slum. And it's not a happy song. It is a song that brings up emotions. If you really listen carefully to this song, you'll probably cheer up a little bit just at the hopelessness of the person the song is about. You can almost see U2 maturing as a band as we move through this album. This is the evolution of the world's biggest band versus a quiet ballad that, again, could be a great lullaby. Simon and Garfunkel are taking a knee in this one. U2 10, Simon and Garfunkel 8.
Wow. All right. We got Simon and Garfunkel starting to take some damage. All right. So let me do So Long Frank Lloyd Wright is, like you said, Mike, this is a great song. And when two elementary school friends that have sung their whole lives together, well, when Paul Simon writes you your termination letter because you asked him to write you a song. So Art says to Simon, write a song about Frank Lloyd Wright for me. And he's like, the band's breaking up song. It's a mistake you wouldn't make later on. These guys, if they were more mature and had a little less ego, there'd be room for Art to go explore acting and Paul could do his own thing, but they're not there. And so there's real power in the song and where it goes and some ice cold business in it, honestly. But like you said, Mike, this is Bono exploring ideas and songs that don't often get explored. This is the other part of Bad, and Bad is such a special song. It almost kind of elbows out Running to Stand Still. But I love this song. Actually, I play and try to sing this song on the guitar myself because it's such a powerful song. I'm like, you're right. It's the lyric is powerful. Running to Stand Still opens with a little blues open, and then it's sort of like the day in the life of this couple where you wake up from the day previous and there's hope and there's a possibility. But then you got to score at some point. You've got to jam that needle in your arm and take the poison from the poison stream and then float out of there. It's a struggle. It's love. It's desperation. It's perfect. It's 10-9 U2. Chris?
So Long Frank Lloyd Wright. What a lovely tribute. Not just, if you just look at the lyrics on the surface without the subtext of the band breaking up, it's a lovely tribute to a wonderful architect. And the song is crafted like a building is designed. right? I mean, the harmonies and the instrumentation are delicious. They really are. I mean, sultry harmonies. The lyrics are quite poetic with the so soon, so long contrast at the end of the first and second verse, right? So there's lyrical interplay as well. But Running to Stand Still, I mean, it's about heroin, and if you listen to the song, it sounds like shooting up,
Yes.
right? Like think of the visuals from Pulp Fiction, right? But replace that song with Running to Stand Still, and it sounds like the needle hitting the vein, right? And it it actually lyrically and vocally, at least in the beginning, it's very Paul Simon-esque. It's kind of Bono doing a little bit of Paul Simon, but of course with the U2 thing on top. It is sonically intricate, and it's the first time really on the album that you have to listen, that you lean in and you're really captivated by what Bono is singing. And it's subtle, and it's a win for U2, 10-9.
All right, going into round 6, The Boxer versus Red Hill Mining Town. Okay, The Boxer, this is one of those songs that captures other aspects of the 60s, late 60s sounds. And when you think about all of the people that were prime back then, the Doors, Jefferson Airplane, Jimi Hendrix, the Stones, the Beatles, of course, and then there's Paul Simon also painting at the same level as these guys are, but completely different colors, completely different brushes, just different techniques. These songs all share the same time, and The Boxer stands as a great representation of that time. Again, not dated, a song that I always say this, but I think it's true. We all wish we had a piece of work in our life, whatever it is that we do. For an accountant, that one spreadsheet where you really did your Boxer. We all need a song this good in our curricula vitae. It's such a powerful song, and I love all of the sounds in it. Clearly some inspiration from the Beach Boys and Pet Sounds. So it's great. And this is where finally U2 is not nailing, like swinging for the fences and hitting home runs. It's like they finally got a little tired. I love Red Hill Mining Town, and it's another one of their songs that matters because they're singing about something so much more important than love or baby, baby, baby stuff. The band does not lock this tune down, and I think they agree too. They don't play it on the road a whole lot. We're 6 songs deep, and we finally got a chink in the armor. Paul Simon is good enough to take that opportunity. 10-9, Simon and Garfunkel. Chris, what do you have?
Yeah, well, Red Hill Mining Town, right, starts off with that, with the drums and that fat Adam Clayton bass that is just all over this record, right? And the repetitive guitar sound is evocative of mining equipment, right? And yet another song where Bono proves that he is one of the all-time great, not just frontmen, but vocalists in rock. You know, the song does suffer because of a lack of true brass. If U2 had gotten a brass choir in like they had arranged for the Joshua Tree tour in 2017, that would have made this track one of the absolute stars. But the background kind of does it in, and you know, you are up against The Boxer. This is a cinematic song, right? It's an epic. It's an epic set to music. So, you know, there's a sonic and narrative cinematic quality about this, about The Boxer that, you know, regardless of your lot in life, I think we can all relate to that character. So this one finally goes to Simon and Garfunkel, 10-9.
Mike, what did you do in round 6?
I would say U2 really comes back after the last round with a heck of a song, and they throw out probably my favorite non-hit on the Joshua Tree, because I've always loved this song. Bono's vocals are just breathtaking. I like how they have the backing vocals to add emotion to the song. There's that tinge of brass, but it's kind of more keyboardy than brass, which they probably could have done better. But this song would easily win against most songs from most albums. Quite ironically, since we're doing album fight, it's going up against The Boxer. And The Boxer just lands tons of punches on Red Hill Mining Town. Maybe the best song in Simon and Garfunkel's catalog. I would put it in the top 5. I remember seeing the concert in Central Park on HBO way back in the early 80s. and they did this song so phenomenally well live. Just the interplay against each other. It was really, again, very emotional. But this song it tells a story. It tells it well. The production values behind it, the backing music starts out very subtly, becomes stronger and stronger and more prevalent as the song builds. Simon and Garfunkel really don't get any better than this song. So I gave this one to Simon and Garfunkel 10-9.
All right, now we're going to go into round 7. Chris, take us through Baby Driver and In God's Country.
All right. Well, let's start with In God's Country, another one that starts off with that fat bottom end, right? Adam's bass is just, it fills your headphones, it fills your speaker, and then throughout the rest of the song, Edge's guitar with that stereo effect. It's going back and forth. It's magnificent. It creates, again, a sense of sonic space, like you're in God's country. My gosh. And it's another one where it sounds like the lyrics. But for me, Baby Driver, it's another story. It's another epic poem set to music, if you will. Kind of a honky-tonk blues, complete with the walking bass, right? The one thing about this song that drives me nuts, though, are the sound effects. I just don't understand why they're in there. You make the sounds musically. You make the sounds with your voices. Why did it have to be in there? But despite the sound effects, I give this one to Simon and Garfunkel, 10-9.
Mike?
I was going to say, ironically, I kind of dug the car noises. It sounds like you guys both hated them. But you know what? We're all different, right? I saw this as an opportunity for Simon and Garfunkel. I'm going to say this again. There's not a bad song on Joshua Tree, in my opinion. I never skip a song on this album, ever, when I listen to it. But as far as the tracks go, In God's Country is probably one of the weaker tracks. So I listened really closely to Baby Driver, knowing that this is a chance for Simon and Garfunkel to come back from the drubbing they've gotten so far. Baby Driver is a really fun song. Like I said, I kind of dug the car noises. I think they make it a better song and kind of support the story they're trying to tell. In God's Country is an upbeat song on an album that has a lot of ballads, and it's certainly a good song, but I call it a middle-of-the-road U2 song. Would be the best song on most other bands' albums. Any other band would be proud of it. To me, this was a close round, but I ended up going Simon and Garfunkel just because I said this is a better than average Simon and Garfunkel song versus a lower than average U2 song. So in that context, 10-9 Simon and Garfunkel. Pete?
Round 7 for me, Baby Driver. First off, guess what, Chris? I don't like the obvious car noises. Maybe it's a thing of the time, where they're like, we can do this. And so they try. I think it's lame and it doesn't serve the song. It doesn't. I do love the mood of the song. And the bass line, of course, is classic. We're in the late middle rounds, and oftentimes in these album fights, we see the soft spots of albums, and I think both of these songs are indicative of that. At some point, the budget is getting lean and time is getting short. I think both of these songs suffer from that. Baby Driver, there's nothing wrong with this song at all. It's fine, but it's not the Boxer, and it's not Cecelia. It's a cut below for sure. And like Mike said, it's still a great song. There's no weak song on this album. And In God's Country, we're starting to see the band transition from the War, Unforgettable Fire era and into more of a truer Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum era, this American music exploration. And while this song is good, its job is to bridge things. It's proto Desire. The feeling is fantastic and it's fast. If I had a critique, I would slow this song down, maybe grab as they say, grab a dobro, but just, grab an acoustic guitar and slow this thing down and take it a little easier. It does, to me, honestly, in this context, it feels rushed. As much as I like In God's Country and Red Hill Mining Town, this, like Richard said, these are the rounds that he thought Simon and Garfunkel were going to do a good job on, and they absolutely are. It's a Simon and Garfunkel 10-9. All right, round 8. Mike, kick us off.
The Only Living Boy in New York, a long title, so I know Pete's going to hate it, versus Trip Through Your Wires. It's kind of the low point for Joshua Tree for me, if you listen to it sequentially. I always had trouble figuring out what this song was about. It's kind of bluesy, kind of murky. I do love the harmonica and the guitar interplay. And again, not a bad song on this album. But this isn't a great song either. It goes up against a nice harmony, acoustic guitar story. Simon and Garfunkel starting to get a little bit repetitive with the folk rock, with the acoustic guitar. Awesome harmonies. How do you say they're getting repetitive when it's Simon and Garfunkel and it's just an amazing album also? These, I think, could be considered maybe the low point on both albums. Where it kicked over for me was that I really liked the backing vocals within the Simon and Garfunkel song, enough to put it over the top against Trip Through Your Wires. We call this a close round, with Simon and Garfunkel taking it 10-9.
All right, I had round 8 going similar to you, Mike. It's more Irish blues. It's their emergence into this whole exploration of American music. We're just not seeing something special from the band here. It's, the last few songs, for whatever reason, how the album is structured, this is transition. This is them getting away from the last few years and really emerging as this band. And if Running to Stand Still, like you said, Mike, makes this band emerge into the worldwide band that it became. This is some of the growing pains right here. Trip Through Your Wires. It's not bad, but it's just not great. And they always say like good is the enemy of great. This song's just good. Only Living Boy in New York. Boy, Mike, you stole my notes. So I've got ear fatigue going on. I've heard all of these tools used already. And I feel like this isn't the best version of all the things we've already heard. Look, in terms of being special, we've got a problem with this song. It's not there. We've heard Art Garfunkel's voice. We know how beautiful it is. Just nothing in this song stands out as being truly incredible. I do have to mention for John that Hal Blaine plays drums on this song, and that's always an important thing. But given what's here, I have to go to the emergence of U2 and give them 10-9 in this round. Chris, what did you do?
Yeah, this was not the strongest track on either album. The Only Living Boy in New York, I felt frustrated repeatedly in that song because it has these crescendos that fade back, and so you think, okay, then maybe the next time it does it, we'll get that big climax. No, it doesn't do it, and then the third time you're like, okay, give me that big old climax, and you still don't do it. And by that time, I'm like, all right, then Paul Simon and Simon, you guys have frustrated me beyond belief. I can't, I was so frustrated listening to the song. I really was. Now, Trip Through Your Wires, again, it's not, to echo both of you, not the strongest track on the record, but there is a power in the song. Bono's vocals again are on display, and they are really digging their heels and digging their hands into the sound of America. And I got to give them credit for venturing out of their comfort zone. And maybe it's ear fatigue or whatever, but Simon and Garfunkel are not doing that on track 8. 10-9, U2.
All right, that brings us to round 9. Why Don't You Write Me and One Tree Hill. Well, we can tell by the title already that Simon and Garfunkel are creating a vibe here, and it's not necessarily their folksy harmonies. It's about them breaking up. This is their rumors. Am I over it? I don't know. I'm not necessarily over it, but we're calling back to previous work. We've heard this, and all of this is good, but it's just, I don't know. When you get a B+ on a song on an album that's full of A's, it kills you on the curve. That's what this is, and I'm doing this live. That's a live read. That's what this song's problem is that everything else on the album is so good. This just doesn't get there. One Tree Hill is complex. It's a song written for a friend who died while running an errand for Bono, and it's the first guy in their band family that dies, and it just breaks your heart. They don't play the song live very often because it breaks their heart to play it, because Bono can do what Bono does and Edge does what he does, and they build these emotions, and they're so good at it. And look, they're so good at it, they had room to take a shot at Pinochet and come after him and make a part 2 to their whole Central American dialogue that's going on in this album. I mean, that's just how good this album is. They're transitioning, they're exploring American music, they're still writing hits, they're taking a shot at Pinochet. I mean, This is an incredible mixture of things. Maybe it's too many things, and that's what keeps One Tree Hill from being one of those really incredible songs, but you cannot deny the emotion in it. And this is U2's fitness as a band and the quality of the album really coming there. Though this isn't the brilliant hit that a lot of the other songs are, this song is absolutely too much for Why Don't You Write Me? 10-9 U2. Mike?
I've always liked this song a lot. I say this a lot about everything on Joshua Tree. It's really a good come up after Trip Through Your Wires, which I said before was kind of murky. This is clearly U2 getting you ready for the last two tracks of this album, which don't want to get too far ahead or emotional. To be sure, this is a happy song, even though it was written about an unhappy event. It's really bringing a mood. The end of the song, again, more vocal brilliance from Bono. Roll to the ocean, roll to the sea, which I won't try to sing because I can't.
Thank you.
Not to the extent Bono can, at least. It's just so much better of a song than Why Don't You Write Me, really coming as what you said, Pete, a B. Any rock folk duo in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s could have churned this out. It's a great song because Simon and Garfunkel are singing on it. But any other duo could have done it. It just doesn't stand out. And One Tree Hill is really building back up to finish off the album. So I didn't have Simon and Garfunkel take a knee. I didn't think that Why Don't You Write Me was bad. It just doesn't stand up to One Tree Hill. So 10-9 U2. So Chris, over to you, round 9. How did you score this one?
All right, well, Why Don't You Write Me? I couldn't get into this one. Again, discarding all of the subtext, and treating it as, let's say, a character piece. The character is whiny, and don't ever whine. Don't whine. You're an artist. Find another way to express yourself, but don't whine. And based on that's why I scored it the way I did for that song. And then, of course, it's going against One Tree Hill, which I have always liked this song even before I understood what it was about. And you're right, Pete, they don't play the song live. I was fortunate to see them play the song live kind of on the fly in Chicago back in 2011. They were on the 360 tour, and someone shouted, "Play One Tree Hill," and they actually did it, and it was awesome. So so part of my score might be a little bit of a personal bias, but I also think objectively One Tree Hill is a much better song than Why Don't You Write Me. U2 lands some big punches late in the fight, 10-8 to U2.
Whoa, a knockdown. Wow. All right.
I am so jealous you heard this track live.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
I heard him sing it live in the Joshua Tree tour in L.A. at their stop there for
So good.
whoever they sang it for Chris Cornell or for... You've
Never seen it once.
Oh, well,
Oh,
Mike,
man. Not heard this song live once.
All right.
7 times I've seen the band.
Well, let's move on to round 10. Chris, go ahead and lead us off.
All right. Well, Exit versus Bye Bye Love live. This late in the game for both records, especially for a record like Joshua Tree, one that I know so much, I always think back to this one. And Exit has never been a favorite of mine. Maybe because when I first heard it, I couldn't understand it. I didn't get what it was about. It has certainly grown on me, and I certainly appreciate it sonically. I appreciate it lyrically. I mean, it's poetic. Again, Bono really is starting to come into his own as a lyricist on this album, and Exit is, it's a stunning portrait. When I hear Bye Bye Love live, it sounds out of place on this album to me. Like we hear all these wonderful songs. And then it's this live track that I'm like, okay, where did that live thing come from? I was expecting to hear, aren't we doing a studio album here? So it kind of felt out of place. Granted, it is a wonderful performance, and having performance experience myself, I know just how difficult it is to play along with an audience that is clapping and whooping and hollering. That is exceptionally difficult. And to give a performance as good as that with all of that going around them, kudos to them. But this one has to go to U2, 10-9.
All right, Mike, what did you have for round 10?
I can't argue with much of what Chris just said. I'll do my best. So this is a cover song. And to me, a cover song is already at a disadvantage against a non-cover song, original song. The original Everly Brothers song is at least as good, maybe even better than the Simon and Garfunkel version. So they don't even really take someone else's song from them. It's just really I think it's a throwback to the kind of stuff that they did when they were younger, growing up together and doing covers before they formed a band. But it just doesn't have a whole lot of gravitas to it. And it's going up against a song that is nothing but gravitas. The raw emotional power of Exit struck me even as a 17-year-old hearing it for the first time. I don't know that this song really became one I liked the first time I heard it, but I listened to this album dozens of times in the first month I owned it, and it really grew on me. It's got very disturbing and haunting lyrics. There's a slow build throughout. When you get to the end of this song, it is just pounding you in the face with great music, and it just blows away a cute cover song. I give this one to U2 10-8. Simon and Garfunkel are back on the knee.
It's getting a little rough out there for Simon and Garfunkel. All right, and I'm sure Richard is shaking his head, and we'll hear what he has to say in his post-fight analysis. But this is the reality, right? I mean, one of the bands is continuing to deliver harder-hitting things, and that's you can argue with a couple of the earlier rounds because they were super close, but I think we're seeing what's happening here. Let me go ahead and do my round 10 score. Bye Bye Love, like you guys said, this is why the cover thing exists. Yes, you've done a cover, and they never expected to be put up against U2 20 years down the line. I mean, it's a kooky byproduct of what we do here, and they absolutely should put up a song like this that they love to sing and just want to do it. And Lord knows they're going through enough tough stuff. If they enjoy this, great. The best thing about the song is that Felice and Bodil O'Brien wrote it, and they wrote dozens of songs that are fantastic. And because they're not with us anymore, it's important to make sure we recognize how great they were as songwriters. And that is the important thing about Bye Bye Love, is that they did this a bunch of times. But covers are dangerous, and like you said, Mike, the Everly Brothers version is the one that everybody thinks of for the most part. I mean, it's the dominant version. So if you're going to do a cover and you don't steal it like Johnny Cash damn near did with any number of people's songs, but especially a song from this album, you're in trouble against an original work from any band. And in this case, look, I don't know if Exit is the better choice over having Sweetest Thing as a compare and contrast with or Without You, but this is their choice and they went with it. And one of the things that's great about U2, let me stop and say this. I am on @u2.com all the time. I love that site. There's so much great stuff on there. I wish and I hope that they put this fantastic album fight and the other U2 album fight up so other U2 fans can enjoy it. But there's so many great resources on there. The band has played this song 163 times live. It's not a song that they dig a whole lot, but what is cool, and one of the things that U2 does is they are a jam band in a lot of ways. They got together, they found a groove, and Brian Eno liked it, and Brian Eno has excellent taste. So if the band likes it and Brian likes it, we should just do what we're told and like it. When they find a groove and they can cut two ends of it off and be like, that's the song, and it makes it onto one of the greatest albums of all time, it is an excellent song. This round for me is 10-9 U2. Now, I'm going to stack the deck a little bit here so that you can go last, Chris, and I think that's actually how it worked out. So, Mike, why don't you go ahead and start us off round 11, Song for the Asking, and U2 closing out with Mothers of the Disappeared.
Simon and Garfunkel are getting a little bit wobbly. I would say that Simon and Garfunkel clearly has nothing more to bring against U2. This Song for the Asking, beautiful song. It really is. I think the overall message of it was very positive, and if they ever decide to perform again, and I'm lucky enough to go, I hope they do it. It's an excellent song, and the message here was, hey, maybe we'll work together again. So they ended this album on a high note. Nothing wrong with that. It's a fine track. And it goes up against the raw emotion of a song about children being stolen from their mothers in South America. To close out the album, U2 made a very bold choice with Mothers of the Disappeared. But this song is just beautiful and haunting. And every good thing that U2 can put into a song, they put into this song. This is why Joshua Tree remains their best-selling album of all time, is because they were willing to take the kind of risk to put this sort of a song onto the album. And this is why U2 is still around 30 years later, because they don't really care too much about what it is other people think of them. They want to put out the music that sings to them, and just it connects with so many other people. I don't know what else to say about Mothers of the Disappeared. It's definitely a win 10-9.
Yeah, I think you're nailing this whole thing down right, Mike. So Paul Simon wraps up his feelings, puts a lot out there in the end, and it's really fantastic. And I'm so thankful that we have Simon and Garfunkel to do the things that they did. Bridge Over Troubled Water is a fantastic album, and one that's worthy of all the Grammys, all the covers, the status of being top 100 greatest albums of all time from Rolling Stone. It deserves all of that. They've time-stamped New York in a way that's not dated. It's the 60s, and it's their breakup album. Then U2 delivers a 74-word song, Mothers of the Disappeared, and it's a coda to close out the Central American theme that they've carried throughout this album. I wouldn't dare say anything more than just the song is, we've talked about Reagan, we've talked about Pinochet, and now we talk about the mothers. 10-8 U2. Chris.
Wow. Well, the end of a heck of a fight. Song for the asking. A sweet, sweet song, tender song. I mean, the lyrics themselves, here's my song for the asking. Ask me and I'll play. This is my tune for the taking. It's offering himself, whether it's Simon singing a Garfunkel or whether it's just an artist or a troubadour singing to his audience. This is what I have to offer. Take it or leave it, but here it is for you. It's sweet. But Mothers of the Disappeared is an important song. It continues the political backdrop set up earlier on the album, but it focuses, on the politics of what it's doing to families. It's getting at it's going beyond the root of the political problem, and it's talking about the people. And sonically, it sounds like an impressionist painting. It sounds like the fog. It sounds like the jungles. It's amazing. So I have to give this one to U2, 10-9.
Yeah, and with that we close out the album fight, and let's take a look at the scorecard. Mike, what do you notice? And let's talk a little bit about what the trends are and everything.
We clearly all like YouTube. I think that's a given. But also, honestly, I think we all appreciate Simon and Garfunkel and give them a fair shake. And Simon and Garfunkel clearly took round 6 and 7 unanimously, but those are the only ones that they did win unanimously. Going throughout the scorecards, there were a few other wins here and there, but U2 unanimously took round 1, 4, 5, and 9, 10, and 11. Oof. So we have a unanimous decision here: 107, 100, 106, 101, and 108, 100. And that's Pete, me, and Chris in order. Unanimous decision.
Richard, give us your fight analysis.
Richard here. Let's look at the post-fight numbers. Not a whole lot to say about this. This was a unanimous decision. Even the unofficial cards had it going to Joshua Tree. But let's break them down and see if there's anything we can find out here. As far as the official cards, we have 321 for U2 to 301 to Simon and Garfunkel. That is an average of 107 to 100.33. That comes out to a per round average of 9.72 for Joshua Tree to 9.12 for Simon and Garfunkel. That's interesting in that with the 9.72, that means most rounds were 10-round rounds for Joshua Tree, and the 9.12 means that most rounds for Simon and Garfunkel were 9s, which means that there was a vast majority of the rounds on the official card that went to Joshua Tree, and that holds true. Of the 3 judges, 2 of them were 8-3, and 1, I think, was 7-4, and those numbers come out there. Now, when you add the official cards in there of me and Phil, thank goodness, buddy, you and I are on the same page. We had it a much closer fight. Both of us had it just 1 point difference. If you start looking at the rounds that I pointed out for each of the albums, I had Joshua Tree rounds 1 through 3, and I had Bridge Over Troubled Water rounds 6 through 8. Each of those would have 9 possible points going to them, and both of them scored 7 out of 9. So I was pretty accurate there in what rounds would go to what bands. So with that much of a blowout, then, where was the difference makers? And here's where it came down to Joshua Tree had 5 knockdowns on the official cards. I think personally that's a little crazy. They were all razor thin to me. Some rounds maybe a little bit more than others, but I never had anything anywhere close to a knockout. If anything, I would have almost done a knockout for Exit in round 10 for Joshua Tree, but it was going up against Bye Bye Love, which is a cover and not a great cover, and that's the only thing that really, for me, saved it from being a 10-8 round against Joshua Tree. Other than that, the numbers, there's not a whole lot to argue here. We all kind of agree that Joshua Tree came out the winner in this, in Song v Song. I think that balance could even have changed a little bit. My issue with Joshua Tree was it kind of slows down at the end, and if those songs were kind of shuffled around, how much stronger that album might be up against any album, really. But overall, I can't argue with the result. I think the path to the results was a little one-sided, and I think maybe a little bit overly one-sided. I know I personally had trouble because I love Joshua Tree. I think it's a perfect album. In separating myself from what I like sonically with what I'm listening to. I will say that a little bit of Bridge Over Troubled Water felt a little dated. Some of it even sounded a little overly Beatles-esque. I think Pete even pointed out a little bit of Beach Boys in there too. Not that that's a problem, because it was still Simon and Garfunkel, but it did sound like something not very contemporary, whereas Joshua Tree really still holds up today. Sounds like it sounded the first day I ever listened to it. So that's it. It's a unanimous decision. I'm not going to sit there and argue it. I had it a little bit closer, but can't really argue with the outcome. Back to you guys.
Phil has his numbers up already. He has it a little closer, and he didn't have the amplitude that we all had. At least one knockdown, if not a couple of knockdowns. Those knockdowns and then just the number of unanimous rounds is pretty significant. And Phil followed suit on a lot of those things. Well, it'll be interesting to see how the numbers evolve over the years as this show is up and progresses. Chris, what are your thoughts as we close this thing out?
It's so interesting to compare albums in this format, because usually when in most other, which album is better, you talk about the album as a whole, but this is to do it in a boxing match style. It really gets to the heart of each track, and how an album is progressing. This was closer than my scorecard reflects. I have great respect for Simon and Garfunkel. This is U2, and this is the Joshua Tree.
All right, well, there you have it. Thank you guys so much for coming. We're always grateful, John. If he's doing the fight, if I'm doing it, it's just such a great chance to do it. Like I said, I've known Mike for decades, and it's always great to be able to hang out with my buddy and do these things. And Chris, it's just been such a fantastic ride in the short amount of time I've known you. I would love to have you come on and do another album fight. If you wanted to build an album fight, you get what to do now. I would love to do it. The whole point of this thing, and you get this as a music professor, we want people to enjoy things and consider albums they might not have considered or just to consume music. So thank you guys both so much for coming.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Thank you for having me.
But thank you, fellas, very much. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this, and we'll talk to you all the next time.
Thank you.